And now, our long program. I'm very pleased to introduce David George Brooke. As he likes to be referred to, he's that gratitude guy. And he's been a speaker, coach, and best-selling author for over 25 years. He's a former Nordstrom store manager and has managed in the corporate world for over 30 years. His published works include the Brooker's Daily Gratitude Journal, 6-Word Lessons to Embrace Gratitude, and a number of other books on the topic. As a result of his passion for gratitude, he's presented over 650 speeches and workshops over the past 6 years. He travels internationally and nationally to deliver this important message, although I've got a feeling his suitcase has not been exercised much in the last 6 months. He does have over 1,000 videos on YouTube and over 1,000 subscribers that follow his message. So if you get a chance, please check that out as well. He's also a resident of Seattle. And so with that, I'm pleased to turn over the podium to George David Brooke.
Thank you, President Jeff, and thank you everybody for coming today. I'm going to tell you right up front, you're going to need a couple of things. So if you could grab this real quick, is a piece of paper or a pad of paper and a pen and your cell phone. And then I like to ask people about high-fiving in the screen or high-fiving on the chat. So have your whichever hand you're happiest with ready to roll. And then if you don't have your video on, please use the chat when I ask you about high-fiving it. So as I mentioned, I'm actually very grateful to be speaking today. And I was a member of Seattle 4 for quite a while. And I'm very fortunate to have spoken to most of the 5030 chapters in the state. And I've said to many a Rotarian, I've never met a Rotarian I didn't like. And then, of course, one day somebody came up to me and said, well, I guess you haven't met them all. I said, well, I'm just telling you, the people I've met were fantastic. And I think Rotarians, the service above self and the whole effect of helping other people is something fantastic about Rotary. So once again, thanks, President Jeff. I'd also like to thank Beth Knox and Mark Davis for making this possible today. And first thing I'd like you to do is write down my email, David@thatgratitudeguy, David@thatgratitudeguy. And I talk very fast. I'm going to pack a lot of stuff into about 30 minutes. I probably won't have time for questions. So if you have my email, you can always email me with a question later, and there may be a time for one or two. But again, I like to make this very interactive, not act like you're interested, but very interactive. And there's a lot of exercises we're going to get to in just a second. So I think first and foremost, I'm going to start off by talking about the quarantine is a little bit less of an impact right now, but certainly the pandemic in general is still a huge impact on all of us. I went through a lot of tough things in my life. I lost my mom when I was relatively young. I lost my father to suicide. I lost my wife to a prescription pill overdose when my sons were young. And so in many ways, the pandemic was another obstacle placed in front of me that I was going to have to figure out a way to get over. And ultimately, what the solution was for me was gratitude. And I will start off by saying, as I get to look and I can flip through these screens and see everybody, the people that have their video cameras on, and get to see the faces. I'm not a PowerPoint guy. I like to do exercises and look at people and see how they're reacting and so forth. But it does start with how you look at something. It's that person you see in the mirror brushing your teeth in the morning. It's that person. You're brushing your hair. Unlike Ken and I, if you have any hair, I guess you'd be brushing your teeth. But the thing is the relationship you have with yourself is so important. Later, I'm going to talk about, I think that's maybe the most important relationship you have at all, is the one that you have with yourself. But it does depend on how you look at something. My father took his own life, and he was one of these people I'd say, good morning, Dad. And he'd go, what's good about it? And I thought, wow, there was 5 of us. What an attitude to have. And I'd say, you know, Dad, it's sunny out. He goes, it's going to rain tomorrow. I thought, man, and so you've heard the glass half full, the glass half empty. I do an exercise when I'm in person about people are turning their hand and whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise. But I will implore you to believe it depends on how you look at something. Every single day you get out of bed, you have a choice to be positive or negative, up or down, red or black, whatever. It's a choice you have. Nobody can take that choice away from you. I was doing a foot race over in Bellevue many years ago. It was a 10K race. It went from Medina across the floating bridge. I think the toll plaza was still there, up into Husky Stadium. I think it was a 10K. I'm halfway across the bridge and I'm struggling. Little kids are passing me. And I'm thinking, man, there was a bunch of people in front of me. And then I turned around and looked behind me way up to the toll plaza, thousands of people. And then as I turned back around and started chugging away, I thought, here's what's interesting. If all these people in front of me weren't here, I would be in first place. I mean, what if all those people had just decided not to come today? Honey, I'm not going to the race. I don't want to do that 10K. Yes, guess who would be? Thank you for laughing, Laurel James. And I'll tell you for sure, I would have been out there. So it's how you look at something. How about this coronavirus? Silver linings of coronavirus. People say to me, okay, Mr. Gratitude Guy, what is there to be positive about the coronavirus and quarantine and people dying? Yes, it's very tough. Yes, it's very difficult. Yes, there's a lot of tragedy, but at the same time, look at this technologies, computers, cell phones, the bandwidth never would have been able to handle this many people a few years back, and that's changed. Zoom has been a game changer. All my talks were in person. Like President Jeff said, I don't have my bag packed, and he's exactly right. But if it wasn't for Zoom, I wouldn't be able to do all these presentations. The science is phenomenal. There'll probably be a vaccine soon. All these efficiencies. I used to drive an hour to meet a buddy of mine at Starbucks, and then an hour back to Issaquah is actually where I live. And I've now saved 2 extra hours. We'd meet 1 hour on Zoom and so forth. Conveniences, groceries to your house, meals to your house, food, things from Amazon, all those kinds of things. The community, what does Rotary represent if it doesn't represent community? But we're a sense that we're in this together. Somebody said this is the first time they can think of that the entire world has been in something together. And so there's that sense that we can beat this if we group together and band together. And I think maybe the biggest thing about embracing gratitude is it helps you to realign your priorities. We all get our priorities messed up sometimes, and what we think is important really isn't that important. So first exercise, get your pen, please, or your pencil and a piece of paper. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down these 2 words. And again, whether your camera's on or not, doesn't matter. You can play along even if you're just calling in on the phone and you just got a piece of paper. I want you to write these 2 words. You are, Y-O-U-A-R-E. You are. Write those right at the top of your paper somewhere. Okay, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to picture yourself, not yourself. I want you to be your husband, your wife, your best friend, your biggest cheerleader, somebody who thinks you're terrific. I want you to picture that you're them writing about you. And I want you to write down as fast as you can in 30 seconds all the things they would do to describe you. You are talented. You are energetic. You are absolutely brilliant. However they would see you, write as many things as you can about how they would write and see you in 30 seconds. Go. Okay, and there's 30 seconds. I'm sure many of you are thinking, well, I could write for a long time because there's many things that describe me that I'm talented, I'm this or that. So here's what I want you to do. It took you 30 seconds to write those things down. It should take you 2 or 3 seconds just to reread how they see you. So please reread those things that they wrote about you and would say about you. And then with a high five to the screen, how many people feel better after reading that list? High five up to the screen. I'm watching all of you, so I can tell. Very good. Let me check the other screens here just to be on the safe side here. Holy, I can't keep track of all these screens. All right, excellent. That's the vast majority of them too. And I will tell you, here's the question. If somebody sees you in that light, that is what gratitude will do for you. David Park made a great point about talking about some of the things that gratitude, and it's the glass half. You think you can, you can. You think you can't, you can't. That is what having an attitude of gratitude will do for you. And of course, I always have the occasional person, why didn't you have somebody list their shortcomings? Like, what do you think this talk is? The shortcomings talk here? No, it's all the things you bring to the table. So when somebody sees you like that, I will never understand why we are so hard on ourselves. I've done all sorts of crazy things in my life, and yet there's times I used to call myself a word. I won't even call it anymore. I won't even say the word anymore, but I called myself this for a lot of my life. I will spell the word for you, and it was spelled L-O-S-E-R. And one day it finally hit me, and I thought, wait a second here. If you're not going to advocate for yourself, who's going to advocate for you? And what gratitude does is it totally keeps you focused on what you have. focusing on what you have, not what you don't have. I will make this statement 2 or 3 times. Gratitude turns what you have into enough. Gratitude turns what you have into enough. That is part of harnessing gratitude's power. Everybody knows, I'm pretty sure, 2 people go into a hospital with the same disease, the positive attitude lives, the negative attitude passes away. It's pretty well known. So that's how important it is. So you get into gratitude. We're going to talk about a gratitude journal here in a few minutes. And that's even something further that'll plant it in your brain. I'll tell you how important gratitude for me is. I think it saved my life in many occasions, but I'll tell you one about 40 or 50 years ago. I learned how to fly in the late 70s and early 80s. And I actually bought an airplane. And I remember my instructor saying to me, and he used the word grateful way back there in like 1978. And he says, "You're going to be grateful that you listen to me when I tell you this next statement." I said, his name was Jay Diddy. And I said, "What's that, Jay?" And he says, "You're going to be grateful that you listen to me when I tell you, don't ever not believe," double negative, "always believe your instruments, no matter what you think." Sure enough, about 6 months later, I fly down to Ocean Shores with some friends. I get caught in the storm and I'm lost, and I start to turn the plane and I think I'm straight and level, and the turn and bank indicator says I'm 60 degrees to the bank, which is to the right, which means it's going to keep going over and I'm going to flip over. But I remembered what he said: "You will be grateful if you listen to me." And so I turned it back to straight and level. I turned the plane to straight and level. I think I'm upside down. That's how much vertigo I had. But I kept it straight and level and finally pulled out of the clouds at over 10,000 feet. Went back to Seattle. Otherwise, I could have been what happened to John Kennedy Jr., corkscrewed right into the ground because I clearly had vertigo. He said, "You will be grateful that you listen to me. Always listen, always trust your instruments, regardless of what your body or your mind or whatever it might say." So I will tell you, that's how powerful gratitude can be. Also, the science of gratitude. This is not woo-woo I'm talking about. This is science. There's research behind this. There's studies. So I'm going to read this kind of fast, but I want to tell you this. I could put it up on the screen, but I'd rather just read it. This is what the science has told us about gratitude. Appreciating what we have measurably improves our relationships, our life satisfaction, our health, our sleep, and it improves our physical health, leading to fewer aches and pains, lower blood pressure, and less depression. Very important. Grateful people are more likely to take care of their health, exercise more often, and schedule regular checkups. Gratitude reduces toxic emotions like envy, resentment, frustration, anger, and aggression, and enhances positive emotions like empathy, caring, and sympathy. Too much of our time is spent pursuing things we currently don't have. Gosh, I almost wish I could read that again. What is with this thing? If I just have this boat, I'll be happy. If I just have this mate, I'll have this. If I take this vacation, happiness starts inside, and gratitude is a huge part of that. Gratitude reverses that and realigns our priorities to appreciate what we currently have. Right now, gratitude turns what we have into enough. Happiness is rarely constant. So although happiness is a fantastic goal, gratitude for the tools that get you there are more important. How easily we can lose sight of everything we had to be thankful for when the circumstances of life become unpleasant. Think about coronavirus. Think about how unpleasant that's been. We are our own worst critics, and we hold ourselves to impossible standards, and we continually compare ourselves to others. Why is it that cheerleader, that spouse of yours, looks at you in such a better light than you look at yourself? I've never figured that one out, why we're so hard on ourselves, but you just want to continually compare yourself to others. Look in the mirror and be happy with who that person is. Science says that the more you choose positive and kind words to describe yourself, your health, your body, and your progress, the less anxiety you will experience. That's the science of gratitude. So next exercise, back to the pen and paper, please. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you 30 seconds on this. This is going to sound like a big assignment, but I want you to write as many things as you can in 30 seconds. I want you to write down the top 1 to 5 to 10 most memorable events of your life. The most memorable events, personal, professional, children, family, kids, whatever, the most memorable events of your life. Write as many as you can in 30 seconds. Go. Okay, 30 seconds. And that's just to get you started. So here's what I'd like to ask you to do. I realize in 30 seconds, you can't write all the most memorable things in your life, but I wanted you to get started. So before I even tell you what I'm going to ask you to consider doing, can I get a high five to consider doing what my homework's going to be for you all? Can I get a high five? Is it a yes or is it a yes? Okay, great. Look at all these high Fedda. Where's your high five? Watch, there we go. Good. All right, here's what I'd like you to do. This is what I'd like you to promise me, or at least consider doing. It's Wednesday, October 7th. Between now and Wednesday, October 14th, that's a week from today, I would like you to take that list and expand it out to one of three things: top 25, top 50, or top 100. Whichever one you want, expand it out to that, and maybe put it on a Word doc or an Excel spreadsheet or something that's easy to keep track of. Hopefully, the most memorable events are at the top, and then you have it go down from the most memorable to the least. I did that one day, and I did 100 of these things. I did it over a course of a week. And the reason I did is I thought, wow, you are getting the wrong attitude, Mr. Gratitude Guy. You're talking about all the things you didn't do. I haven't been to Italy. I haven't been to France. I'm going, and I went down and stop everything. Holy, you had your own airplane. You're a national champion hydroplane driver. I went all these things. All of a sudden, my whole life and my whole attitude shifted towards my life. So if you are having a bad day, you look at that list, that'll turn that day around, because all of a sudden you're going to see all these memorable events and you're not going to worry so much about what you didn't do. So it's very, very important. Next, gratitude journal. This is the Brooker's Daily Gratitude Journal. And I will tell you, I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and there's a link that you can buy this on Amazon, and that's fine. I sell a lot of them, especially the Joint Base Lewis McCord buys a lot of them and so forth. But if you get a spiral notebook, I will be happy, because this is what's made such a difference in my life. There's a little saying in the upper left-hand corner of this gratitude journal that says, if you think about it, it's like a dream. If you talk about it, it inspires you. But if you write about it, it empowers you. There's something about writing something with a piece of paper and a pen, as you are doing today. I am so grateful to President Jeff Borak and Beth Knox and Mark Davis for inviting me to Seattle 4 today, and so forth. It plants it in your brain better. And this is set up that here, in fact, as we turn and I look at, I'll show you, here's all the pages. This is mine. Of course, I write in it every day. I was doing a talk once, and a young man comes up to my table, and I have my books for sale and the journals and everything. And he looks at it, is this your journal? And I said, yeah. And he starts thumbing through. This is, of course, my own. I use my own, of course. He flips through and he goes, wow, you write in this every day. And have you been like listening to the talk? Of course I write in it every day. It has that big of an impact on you. So here's the example of how this is set up. It's got a little bit of a template to it. It says gratitude today, the day and the date. Today is October 7th, Wednesday. The daily number we're going to come to in just a second. There's 2 lines for current events, special occasions, so you don't have to have a diary. Then there's about 4 or 5 lines for what you're grateful for, and 2 lines at the bottom, which are the highlight of your day, which we'll come to in a second. And then the right-hand side is your gratitude tomorrow, and that's what you're going to be grateful for in the future. So here's the exercise that we're going to do, because you don't have a gratitude journal. So here's what we're going to do on that piece of paper. I want you to think about, now this is a very personal exercise. You're not sharing this with anybody. And that's why I like Zoom, because everybody's kind of on their own. And all of you, again, that don't have the camera on, you can use this on your piece of paper as well. I want you to think about your daily number. And the daily number, as I describe it, is 1 to 10. 10 is the best day of your life, and 1 is a very rough day. And I want you to put down what you think your daily number is at this very moment, and you can use halves. You could be a 7.5 or 8.5, maybe not that good of a day, maybe a 4 or 4.5, whatever. And if you're having a 1 or a 2 or a 3 day, it's okay, because nobody's going to know. But whatever that number is, put that number down, put a circle around it. Okay, and then next, I want you to write, you're going to write 4 things. So write down the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Right below that number where you put a circle around it. Okay, number 1, if you could only pick one thing you were grateful for in your entire life, what would that be? Only one thing, put that at number 1. All right, number 2, if you could only pick a second thing after number 1, put that at number 2, what you're most grateful for at the second place. And you might have guessed that 3 is the third thing you're most grateful for. So you should have number 1, 2, and 3. Most grateful, second most grateful, and third most grateful. Okay, and at number 4, it is not the 4th most grateful thing. It is, I'm gonna give you about 20 seconds to think about this. What was the highlight of your day yesterday? What was the best thing that happened to you yesterday? Write that down at number 4. Okay, so now just like before, you wrote them down, took you a little bit longer. Now it'll take you about 5 or 6 seconds to read the 3 things you're most grateful for and the highlight of your day. I want you to reread those 4 things, and then I want you, after reading those 4 things, to write another daily number below. Could be the same number, could have changed. But after reading those 4 things, I want you to write another daily number below, write it down, and put a circle around it. Okay, so by high five to the screen, how many people's number from the top to the bottom went up? High five to the screen. 2, 3, let me check these other screens here for a second. Wow, tons on that screen. Lots on that screen. That is a 60-second, thank you. That is a 60-second example of what writing in a gratitude journal will do for you. I would say the average time I spend on this journal is 5 minutes. That's all I spend on it. And I frame everything about what I'm grateful for, the daily number, the highlight of the day, and so forth. So imagine if that happened to you in 30 or 60 seconds, how much of an impact it can have on you when you write it down. As I mentioned in here, it plants it in your brain better. They can affect you for 5 minutes a day. That's the advantage of a gratitude journal. Okay, grab your smartphones if you would. Write this phone number down, 206-371-8309, 206-371-8309. That is my phone number. I'm going to ask you to text me the number 1 thing you're grateful for. Whatever is at the top of your list. I love to poll my audience and kind of get a flavor of what everybody is most grateful for. 206-371-8309. All right, and as while you're doing that too, whatever's number 1 on your list, please text me that. I love to find out what people are thinking. I will tell you, I have these fraternity brothers. They're the ones that name me the Brooker, because my last name is Brooke. And they used to call me and they'd say, I need a dose of the Brooker. You're the inspirational for us. You're inspirational. You're the motivator. You're the person that inspires us. And so I would help them out. And I say, what can I, and I would get them thinking positive and so forth. Well, now I recommend that they have their gratitude journal. So they call me, hey, I need a dose of the Brooker. I'm just really depressed today. I'm having a tough time. I need some inspiration. I go, hold on. Before you go any further, let me ask you something. Have you written your gratitude journal yet? And they go, no. So I just go like this, bam. I just hang up on the phone. I just hit off. I hit the phone. It never fails. 15 seconds later, they call back. I think we got cut off. I go, no, we didn't. I hung up on you because I told you, right? I'll be the training wheels to the bike, but you got to pedal your own bike. I can't do this for you. Write in a gratitude journal. If you do these things, write in a gratitude journal, get your rest, take your vitamins, drink water, get sleep, hang out with positive people. If you still need help, I'm happy to help you. But there's a lot of this that is the responsibility of the person pedaling the bike. Again, I'm happy to be the training wheels, but I will tell you, it's so important that you take responsibility for your happiness. And that's one of the biggest ways to do that is gratitude. Gratitude turns what you have into enough, as I've said a number of times. Next, I want to talk about very briefly, find yourself, find your talent, find your passion, find your purpose. I think it's so important. I contend the most important relationship you'll ever have is the relationship you have with yourself. Here's a $20 bill, Andrew Jackson. And if I was able to see you in person and put this through the camera, I think most people would take this without any strings attached. Here, I'll just give it to you. So then the question is, if I do this, if I crunch it up, would you still take it? I think most people would say they would. If I put it on the ground and stomped on it on my feet and smoothed it out, I think most people, I'd say, here, you still want this? Mariah, you still want it? Yep. I think most people would probably take it. And then if I look at Andrew Jackson and I say, listen, Andrew Jackson, you're a piece of junk. You're worthless. You don't deserve to be on this planet. And I think there's not even a reason anybody would ever want to be your friend. You know what Andrew Jackson says? He says, well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Speaker, man, you can tell me whatever you want, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm still worth $20. And he would be right. So why do you let somebody crush you, step on you, tell you you're not worthy, or worst of all, devalue you from 20 to 15 to 10 to the worst of all 5 or 0 and let them get away with it? Well, I'll tell you a way you won't let them get away with it is if you are writing in a gratitude journal, and some of the things, again, that David Park said, anything focusing on gratitude will help to give you the best Teflon, the best armor to protect any of that kind of stuff from you. And I will tell you also, self-esteem, so important. I have a little sheet here. It says 12 ways to increase self-esteem and confidence. I don't have time to read through this, but these are very impactful things. If you want this, I will send this to you. Just write me at that David@thatgratitude guide email address, and I will send it to you. I don't have time to kind of go through it today, but finding yourself, have a great relationship with yourself. Don't let somebody tell you you're not worth what you are. For gosh sakes, you control that. Back to that person in the mirror. You can control how much gratitude that you have and so forth. Next, your talent. Make your strengths productive and make your weaknesses irrelevant. Make your strengths productive and make your weaknesses irrelevant. If you are a 5'1", 150-pound young man, you're probably not going to be a quarterback in the NFL. Probably not going to happen. So figure out where your strengths are and make those productive, and then don't worry about the other things. Make those strengths productive. The weaknesses are irrelevant and so forth. Find your passion. What would you do if you had $1 million a day? What would you do if you had $5 or $10 million in the bank? Any of those kind of things. What did you want to be when you grew up? I mean, what was the thing that you're back when you now would do it for free, maybe anything? That's how you can find. I'm very, in case you can't tell, I'm very passionate about this whole subject of gratitude. I wanted to be a speaker when I was 19 years old. And as I mentioned, my wife died when I was she was in her late 30s, 38 years old. I was 48. My sons were 4 and 14. Years later, I finally decided I'm going to realize my dream of becoming a speaker. It was December 26, 2013. I was 63 years old. It doesn't matter how old you are. I know the average age of Rotary might be a little bit older. Well, I'm not. I'm right in that ballpark, maybe towards the high end of it. But here's all these people. Ray Kroc started KFC at 63. Mary Kay Ash was 45. John Houseman won the Academy Award at 71. Sam Walton was 45. I'm 70. Are you kidding me? I come home from working at Lowe's. I'm managing a Lowe's home improvement store on December 26, 2013. And Connor, who's 17 at the time, says, "What are you doing home?" And I said, I quit. "What do you mean you quit?" I said, "I quit." "You quit Lowe's?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You quit being a store manager?" I said, "Yeah." And he looks up from the couch, he looks up at me, he goes, "Well, that's just super, Dad." And I wasn't quite expecting that response. And he says, "Well, I now have a question for you." He goes, "What are we going to do for food?" And I said, "You know what? It's okay. We will make it. We will figure it out." And I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years. I'm going to do this way through to my 70s, 80s, and 90s, God willing, because I'm very passionate about it, because it leads you to your purpose. Find yourself, find your talent, find your passion, then that'll take you to your purpose. If you wonder if people found their purpose or not, think about Bear Bryant. Bear Bryant won 4 or 5 national championships at Alabama. He retires, and like 3 months later, he passed away. Joe Paterno, Penn State, gets into that big mad mess of things and gets fired from Penn State. About 4 or 5 months later, he passes away. Andy Rooney on 60 Minutes went into, I think in his 90s or something, when he was still making his commentary every Sunday on 60 Minutes. He finally does his last broadcast. Within 2 or 3 months, he passed away. Something happened about the purpose. And I know people that have their purpose, I think it's so important to really focus on how you can find yourself and have a great connection with yourself, and gratitude will help you to do that. Also, to figure out that passion that you have, and what's the thing, again, that you want to do when you were a kid, or any of those things, and realize what talents you have. I've always been somebody who talks fast. I've been a speaker, so I guess it makes sense. That's the world that I'm in. I'm speaking, and then you will get to that purpose. And I think everybody wants to get that at some point in their life. So, all right, last couple of things I'm going to wrap up here. People ask me all the time, how can I get more gratitude in my life? In fact, let me do this. I will put the, hold on here, my links. I have Bam. There we go. I put a bunch of links in there. So if you're interested in getting the gratitude journal, you can click on that and there's an Amazon link and so forth. Also, grab your smartphones again. One more thing with the smartphones. Actually, there's two more things. And that is every Monday morning, I send out a Monday Morning Minute. And it's a 60-second video of something about gratitude for the week to kick off your week on a good note. And my sister gets it recently, and she says, David, I get your Monday Morning Minute every early Monday in Colorado. She goes, every single video is about gratitude. Gina, what do you think is gardening tips by David? Of course it's about gratitude. That's all I speak about. So it's always something new. So if you'd like to get that, go into your text, and here's what I'd like you to do. Text to the number 42828. Put that in the number for your text, 42828. And then in the message box, put grateful, GRATEFUL. The number is 42828, and in the message box is grateful. And that will send you a little thing, and it'll ask you for your email, and you'll get that email list. Last thing and actually is one more thing that I'm going to keep those cell phones handy too after that. I'm often asked after talks, people always say, well, in any size business, they recognize people could use this message. And they ask me, do you do speaking for companies, and do you do coaching and group coaching, individual coaching? And the answer is yes and yes. And so if there's anybody that has an interest in that, please get a hold of me at david@thatgratitudeguy.com for speaking or coaching and so forth. All right, last thing I want to do is share gratitude. So get the cell phones ready again. And here's what we're going to do. There's something about you embrace gratitude, you understand gratitude, the science of it, the gratitude journal, find yourself, find your talent, find your passion, find your purpose, and then you want to share it. There's nothing better when you find something you're excited about than sharing it. So what I want you to do, I call this the 4 T's: text, tweet, telephone, or tell. And most of you are probably going to text. So what I'd like you to do, I'll give you 30 seconds. I want you to text somebody in your life and tell them how grateful you are to have them in your life. And please use the word grateful. And you can say anything else you want, but text them. I'll give you 30 seconds. Go. Okay, and stop. And I know that 30 seconds isn't much time, but I got to wrap up here. And if you can still do that text, do another one. In junior highs and high schools, they do about 7 or 8 texts in like 60 seconds. You've never seen fingers move so fast. And then I do a lot of senior centers, and we allow a little more time to get those texts out there and get it to the people. But I will tell you, it's pretty funny because when I'm in person, we're obviously on Zoom. People come up to the book table, they buy the journals, they buy the books, but they always come up and they say, look at the text that I got, because I have them do the text exercise. And so they show me the text and it goes, I'm grateful for you too. What do you want? Wow. You're just trying to spread some good gratitude here. Another one that he shows me, the one that comes up and it says, are you sure you sent this to the right person? And I go, man, oh man. But one of my favorites, I was out in Bothell doing it was a live thing in this performing arts center. So there was all these seats that went up at an angle. And there's a lady about 10 feet over to my right. And she was actually using the telephone. That's one of the 4 T's. And she was calling, and I could hear her from behind the podium on the stage. And this is what I heard. And she goes, yes, honey, I just want to let you know I'm so grateful for you. And I have a feeling it was her husband. I'm just so grateful, and I just appreciate you so much. And I just want to make sure you understand I'm so grateful for you. I don't know. Some speaker just told me to call you and tell you. Wow, no, it's your idea. It's not my idea. Gosh, holy cow, I have to walk them through this. I will tell you, gratitude can change your life. It can transform your life. I think in my case, it saved my life. And I will tell you, it can save yours too. I'm David George Brooke, that gratitude guy. Remember, be grateful and never quit. Thank you for paying attention.
David, I have the feeling that we're all very grateful that you were here today. If you've never met David, then that's a bummer. Today you got to meet a real force to be reckoned with, and probably the only person I know that may have more energy than I do, but exactly the same hairstyle.